Hey guys, say I'm doing a video on adding a third pontoon to my pontoon boat. Because I live near a river. Most of the boating I do is on the river, and amongst a bunch of large yachts. If I knew then what I know now about the wakes that yachts throw, it's a little intimidating to be out on the river in my what seems very large in my driveway, but it's actually very small on the river. Trying to plow through some of those huge wakes. And I don't do a lot of water sports. I do have grandchildren that have, the tubes, that kind of thing, which we really didn't get into much of this year. This is 2020, summer of COVID. We did get out on the boat a little bit, but again, not with a lot of water sports. But I think this will increase the performance for water sports as well. What I'm doing is adding a third pontoon with lifting strakes and performance shield or underskin as well. So that's what this video is going to be. And again, I want to caution you, and I apologize. I'm kind of new at all this. The video, I had a couple of different phones. I had a camcorder. I had a kind of a knockoff GoPro that I've been using for recording things at different times. It's been kind of a long process. So some of the videos just simply didn't work. Some of the sound was horrible. So basically what I did is cobbled together in some sort of order the videos that did work, and I'm just going to voice over everything because, again, some of the videos as I was doing it just were no good. Or I'm sorry, some of the audio was just no good. So again, I apologize for the quality of the video and the audio, but again, I think you'll get the idea of what I did, and hopefully you can do this yourself. Again, I did it in my driveway, and if I can do it, so can you. Okay, so I removed the ladder and winch assembly and the jack, and I actually backed the truck right up to the front of the trailer, slid that pontoon out onto a wood slide that I made there. And there's a rear view. It's not attached, it's just sitting on that wood slide, and there's a bolting flange, and I used 1.5 inch 3/8 inch stainless steel bolts. This is what the factory had. I used those to bolt right onto the frame. These are the sheets of 24 inch by 74 inch 50-52 aluminum that I had from the Steel Supply House. So these are actually some pieces that I had already made. Those are the bends that we're going to put on here. So what you do is measure. I have 2 inches flaps. I have 2 inches plus 2 inches on one side plus another 2 inches on the other side. Just mark those on either end and the center. Put it on the workbench, and I'm just showing you I have some reference marks on the workbench so I can kind of place the score marks. So there's a couple of processes here. One is to score it, and the other is to bend it. So this is just marking. Again, I had some videos that didn't work, so the pieces that you had already seen, I made those prior to this. These are for the shield that go in front of by the nose cone there, so that's why they're going to be angled at the front. I have a battery operated you'll see a shears here, which you can use aviation snips, whatever. I happen to have a battery operated shear here, which goes on my rigid multi-tool. Actually very handy, it works really well. This is again 50-52 aluminum, 0.063, 63/1000ths of an inch thick, which is about what they use. So to score it, what I've got in there is a V-groove bit with it's a 60-degree V-groove bit, and I have it set at a depth which is half at about 30/1000ths. It's about half the thickness of that aluminum. So I have a couple pieces of angle iron here that I'm clamping to the workbench on top of the aluminum. What I want to have, the base plate of my router is about 2.5 inches, we'll say. So I want the tip of the router bit to be right on the mark, and then 1.25 inches from the mark. I will have those angle irons, and I clamp one down near the edge, and my those F clamps aren't quite deep enough, so I'm just taking some 2x2s and screwing those right to the table to clamp that angle iron down. And I'll take my mallet, kind of get that snug. I want it to be able to move freely in there, but I want it to be snug. Your protection, I have safety glasses on. You're working with metal, and you want to lube this a little bit. This is just 10W40. Turn it on, and this actually goes through really nicely. It's a carbide tip. I'm sorry, a carbide bit that goes into that aluminum really nicely. And I just kind of wipe it up there. Take the clamps off. Take those pieces of 2x2s off, and we've got actually a nice score that you'll be able to see here. And you want to go all the way through. Again, it goes about halfway through. The next step is to bend it. These I wanted about a 30 degree bend or so. So I've got a piece of angle iron on the edge, a piece of steel, tube steel, clamp that down, get a nice clamp on the edge of the aluminum on the back side of the score, and on the front side of the score that I'm going to bend down, I'm just going to take just some clamps, clamp that piece of angle iron on there, and you'll kind of see I'll bend it down, kind of eyeballing at about 30 degrees. Again, this is not rocket surgery here. I don't really need to be precise, but that's about where I want to be. And you got to be careful not to, if you go too far, not to go too far. You don't want to go too far, bend it back. There's not a lot of forgiveness with this. If you bend it back, it will probably crack. And all I have here is a wire brush on a drill that to kind of deburr everything. Don't want any sharp edges. You can see the front of the center pontoon is going to go right in that little V. Just a note about the workbench. This is an old workbench that I have. It has a slight dip in it, a little sway back kind of a thing. So I took an old piece of, just a piece of 2x8 that I had laying around, screwed it to the front of my the workbench. I have 2 3/4 inch pieces of plywood that I had just ripped. I had those laying around, and then just drove some wedges in the back so that I had a level that a straight edge that I just made sure that was nice and straight, because when you're bending that aluminum you want it to be a nice straight edge so you don't get any kinks. And then again, this is what I had the first time. The pieces I just made actually go up towards the bow of the boat, right in the front of the pontoon. These, the one with the notch out, goes back by the transom or the motor pod, whatever you want to call that. And then there's one for each side of the motor pod there, and then 2 on each side of the center pontoon, so 6 pieces total. So there's installed. That's the center pontoon that I had put on. Again, I used the bolting flanges, had to just drill into the existing struts. Used all stainless steel bolts with the aluminum. That is a U-shaped. You can see there I took the guides off the trailer just to give myself a little room in there. That's a U-shaped pontoon, which means it goes straight up. It's U-shaped on the bottom and it goes straight up to the top. It's not round like the other pontoons were. So my other pontoons were 23 inches round with a 2-inch bracket on the top. This is 23 wide and then 25 inches tall. So it hits the water at the same level. And obviously I don't want to drill into that U-shaped pontoon because that's drilling into the pontoon. So I'm going to drill into the top. Now these screws that I have are self-tapping, number 10 stainless steel, self-tapping 1 inch. And you don't need to drill the holes in. And these are the last couple of pieces. You can see on the left side there I have that installed already. So I'm just installing this is the very last piece. And that's the piece I bent down. What I wanted was just in the front. I'm going to leave that first 12 inches uncovered. There's not going to be a lot of splash right there. And here I'm just snipping out a couple of spots where there's some bolts. I want that to be flush. I want that piece of aluminum to be flush up against those struts. So I want to have little cutout notches for the bolts there. I just use my Sharpie. You can kind of see there to wedge it in there. And I'm just... kind of see I'll have trouble with this one Sometimes those self-tapping screws just they dull a little bit and they just won't go through. So I pull it out, just get a new one. They're pretty cheap. So you see there it pops in. So again, and here on the front of the pontoon, again, there's about 12 inches there that I'm not going to cover. So I'm putting that U-bolt in the front so I can attach my winch. I have a 1/4 inch piece of aluminum that I put on top of the pontoon. I'm putting it and bolting it on to that bolting flange just to give a little extra support to the pontoon. So if I have to really crank that thing up on the trailer, I'm not the pontoon, that metal's pretty thin. It's probably 81 thousandths. And drill bit to get in there. It's kind of a tight spot. I have this little flexible drill bit attachment. Let's put that in there. These are again our 3/8 by 1 inch. I think these are actually 1.5, so 3/8 by 1.5 bolts. And then I have that U-bolt there. I bought a 1/2 inch. What I actually received was a 3/8, so I'll leave that in there for now. I want to get this boat into storage. I'll probably replace that next summer with a 1/2 inch U-bolt. That's just drilling a couple extra holes. Here's a back view, and you can see how the everything kind of fits in there. That's the motor, the transom right to the left there, and the pontoon right in front of it. So I'm just replacing the guide on the trailer. This was the end of October, beginning of November 2020. We had a lot of snow, and it was a little chilly here, and more cold than we usually get this early in the winter, or late in the fall, whatever you want to call it. But a little chilly out. But that's why I want to get this thing into storage. We already had one fairly good snowstorm, and it all melted by this time. This is just finishing up here, putting the last U-bolts in to hold the guide for the trailer. Again, there's a guide on each side, so on my particular trailer I have of these stanchions here, there's 6 of them. There's 3 along each side. 2 U-bolts on each stanchion, so there's 4 nuts to tighten. All right, so I've already put the jack back on. You can kind of see that. I've already done that. I'm putting the stairs and the winch assembly on, and I have that blue tape on there. I just want to have it in the same spot. Get it kind of snugged up here, slide it back into place, and put the back side on. Again, here there's just 2 U-bolts as well. Okay, hook it on there and just make sure the boat's not going to slide. I just want to, again, trailer it down. It's about 20 miles away where I stored for the winter, so I just want to have it secure.